All right. Sam, back with you here. We're late morning, Thursday, December 21st. Another member with a request to take a look at ZenCash to Bitcoin. So just as I like to do, come over here. We'll go to CoinGecko, look at ZenCash here. They're over 50 on their score. 133 million for the market cap. Good activity here. This is a popular project. A lot of good information here, so you can do a little digging if you want to learn more about it. As we look down here to the exchanges, it's 99.9% traded in Bitcoin, and almost all of that is on Bittrex. So let's go take a look at it over on Bittrex. So I've got here's the ZenCash to Bitcoin, the 4-hour chart. So you can see here's the craziness of launch date. And is there anything here? Well, is it worth even putting a count on it? I mean, I suppose you're still internal here. I mean, it's deep, so I mean, you could draw this up and say, okay, well, from that high, well, I've gone to well beyond the 786, but I suppose you can make the case that you have you might look at it this way as a truncated fifth. But this is where another way to look at that, rather than trying to always be forcing a count onto something where it may or may not have any benefit to us, you can kind of look at this as, we've had this support zone down here. When we get down here, we get reaction. So this is where buyers seem to come into the market. And I guess you could draw the same kind of thing up here where we've had this range, even though we've got some big wicks that come out of that. We're kind of just stuck in this range. Well, looks like maybe we're getting something started here that would take us out of that range. Now, one thing I did notice, because we always want to see, is it technical? Is there algo activity in there? Any algo footprints? Well, this caught my eye. So if we look here from this high to this low, I mean, it doesn't get any better than that. Right to the 618 and then exactly to their target. So clearly there's algo activity. That's about as clear that's like a Bigfoot footprint right there. It doesn't get any more clear than that. That's exactly what they do. So now we get the reaction off of that. And so so what does that tell me? I've got a good low to work with. Really, that's all I'm after here. Give me a good low to start my count with that is meaningful, that's technical. So I can work from that and say, okay, well, let's going from there. What can I build a trade out of this that has potential for me and the kind of ingredients that we look for. So now we look here. We go, does this do anything for me? Again, it's kind of that same thing. It's just, on a smaller scale, we're just stuck in a range. From here, we got a range up here. And now finally, we get the break out of this range. So sometimes, you don't always have to force an Elliott count. If it's not there and you're just sideways chop stuck in a range, you don't need to get a count on every pivot because it's just not going to help you in any way. So this is where we seem to have started what potentially could be an impulsive move. So we may well have a new trend, at least attempting to get started here. So I look at that and go, okay, well, I've got this low, but this is where I come out of chop. This is where something meaningful starts. So given that I've got that low, I keep that as a reference, because I know that was technical. This is where I get a start on it. This is where I get a start on a wave count that seems like I can put something together here that would make sense. So I can look at this and see, my eye will quickly look for 5. So can I make a case here for this? Can I get a 1, 2, 3? I get an A, B, C into a 4 into a 5. So I'm going to drop the degree on that. Let's go down 1. So that technically that can play. That's nothing wrong with that. No violation of any Elliott rules. So if that's a completed one wave, well, that's kind of interesting to me. So I go right to the 50. So we see it here. So knowing that potentially I've got a one wave there, so I can start to put a trade together here. So I can go, okay, I got a complete 1. I come right to where I would anticipate a 2 wave coming. I get this big move here. Now I got to scrunch it up a little bit so we can contain it. So this certainly looks like a 3. this certainly looks like potentially a 4, the start of a 4, the A wave of a 4. So let me change that degree, and we'll go up 1. Let's go to a different color, and we'll go to minuet. So let's go up 1. So okay, so now we have the markings here of potentially a trade underway and a new trend. Now this, so as I will often tell you, these kind of moves like this. So here's the algo target. They've hit all 3 of their targets, all the way up to the negative 100%. So knowing that I've got that, and then I come down here, now we have not overlapped here. So that's a good sign, but this does not look complete to me. So I'm going to wick this off. This is an important pivot to me. So as I look at that, this is a good sign, but the fact that I've just got a straight shot down, that's just not complete enough. We don't have enough development, enough subdivision. So if I open that up, what I'm looking for is a good 3-wave subdivision to give me a 4th. So I think that's likely just my A, and I've got more work to do here to complete this correction of this entire move. So I'm looking for the 4th, anticipating one more leg up to complete the 5th relative to this 1, 2. Okay, so I can measure and I can look and go, okay, well, if I'm right about this, and there's my 1 wave and there's my 2 wave, I want to look for some statistical significance up here. Well, this is kind of interesting to me. So we know that the highest probability zone for a 3rd wave is between the 1618 and the 175. We get a few ticks shy of it, but that's close enough for me to look at that and go, well, that probably is my 3rd wave. And it's all, you know, good relative because we were right at the negative 100 from the pull here at the 50. So I get a 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. This looks like I'm complete here. So it's worth doing this. This subdivision will help you. So there's my completed 5. So let's get that down to a smaller degree. So, you know, you do the work. You put the case together. You build a case. Don't just leave it blank. Don't just do the detailed work, because it may come back to be meaningful to help you in the trade. Once this is established here, now I've got my hot box up there. I can take that off. So looks to me like I've got an A wave and I'm trying to put in a B wave. So if that's going to be a B wave and I've got my A in down here, well, look at that, right into the hot box between the 618 and the 65. That's our favorite trade. So given that, what does that tell me? Well, here's my negative 23.6 target for that. But that would change my count. So now, you know, I have to be a little cautious here, because if algos are going to get their target down here, that overlaps my 1, that changes what I'm looking at. Now, yes, it could turn into a diagonal, but I'm playing for this to stay as an impulsive wave. So I do not want to see that wave 1 overlapped here. Now, there's, you know, ways that this could still stay bullish with an overlap there, but I'd rather see now. So this creates that scenario that we're seeing all over crypto, which is these shallow C waves, these triangles in the 4th. We may not get down here just because that target is here. Doesn't mean we must get there, but it's something to be aware of. So if I were to breach this high here, I'd be a little concerned and having to relabel the count. Right now, I can see I've got potential for an ABC to be shaping here. Now, so if that is my 2, I'll go back here and pull. There's my 3rd. So take note here, right into the hot box on this side. So we did it here. We did it here. You think algos are in here? Yeah, I promise you they are. Okay, so we've potentially got this B wave getting established right here. Now we're looking for something to give us, you know, help to determine that we've got a C wave. So we would like to see 5-wave subdivision here, even if we go down to the 15-minute. You'd like to see that. We know that we don't want to see that overlap the 1 wave. So if we were gonna see that shallow C wave pattern, well, potentially we pivot at the 50. I like it even better down here for a couple of reasons. One, my stop is closer. So my risk reward, my reward doesn't change. If I'm a buyer at the 50, I've got more risk, less reward. If I'm a buyer at the 618, I've got less risk, more reward. So I prefer it down here, but you know, it may not get there. We may not see that. So you got to watch for that. So what are the clues? What are the tells? Well, you may have to go down to 15, even the 5-minute. Although I prefer to go no lower than the 15. But if I were really trying to get detailed into, can I get a 5-wave subdivision into that C wave, then I would do it. But I do that reluctantly. I would love to see this come back down and double bottom it, or retest this low right into our favorite little hot pocket. So that remains to be seen, whether or not we get there and what kind of reaction we get at the 50, if we get to the 50, because nothing says that we don't just keep rolling here. This we don't know yet, right? We're just hypothesizing. Right now we're creating the potential for a trade to come in down here somewhere, right? We know that somewhere between the 50 and the 618 we have the potential for an entry to be getting long into a fourth, looking for a fifth up here. That's the trade we're hoping to set up. Right now, as far as I'm concerned, there is no trade there. There's just you're waiting, right? I mean, if you're looking to get on the long side, you're waiting for the opportunity to come back down into this hot box, anywhere in this spot, and then again looking for that subdivision that might help us identify the completion of that C wave. This is a reasonable target. We know algos will just as we saw it on those prior lows, we know that's a reasonable target for them, and that makes good sense here. So if we looked at the relationship from our one wave, and we'll use this. We'll use our A wave low here. So there's 100%. That would mean we double top here for a fifth. Here's the 1618. This also not to be ignored. The 272. So I get a little, I get a couple of boxes up here. So I've got the 272 here I've got this one here, and then I get another one up here where I've got my 618. That's extreme for a fifth, but it happens. So in a very bullish market like this, any help from a median line draw, well, it's probably too steep. Let me get this up here. But that's interesting. So we come right back. We pivot at the median line. That shouldn't surprise anyone. So that's kind of interesting. So now we start to build more potential to see this C wave. Right? We've seen this dozens and dozens of times where the C wave does not get to a new low. So that might add more confidence into a trade here, where if we're going to come from this down to the 50 and meet at the median line, then that sets up rather nicely for potentially a move up to the fifth, where we get that triangle pattern that we're seeing over and over and over again in crypto. Now it remains to be seen. When we got to see a reaction there. I don't know that oscillators can be any help there. We're probably too far away, at least on the hourly, but we might be able to get down to the 15-minute, and at least we'd be approaching 30 there, looking for a recycle. Vegas wave is way below, so not much help there. But I would be paying attention here, knowing that easily we could come back down here and revisit. So note we have the median line here, but if we're going to go through, if that's going to keep going, it doesn't invalidate, because we'd just be coming down here to the lower parallel. So you got a couple of different spots here, each that play equally well technically. As I said, better risk reward here, because our stop would be on the other side of the wave one high. We don't need to give that as much room, but we may not get there. It may be that we're doing this. Can't tell yet. You got to look for a reaction, but that's certainly, we know Andrew's median line trading principle number 2 is that very often when price revisits the median line, as it did here, it'll make a pivot on or very close to the median line. So that would be really interesting. So again, it's building a case for a trade. And then looking at the risk reward. So if you're here, if you were a buyer at the 50, just you'd have to front run it a little bit. You never put your trade right on it. So we went just under that wave one. Well, that's 3-1. It's not terrible. That's a minimum that I would look for. So here, if we're a buyer front running the 618, we're there, and we got a little more upside. Well, now we get 7-1. Right? But the market may not give us that. That's gorgeous. Or the other play is potentially you take a small position here at the 50, anticipating that if it's going to come down here to the lower parallel, you would put a second add on here, kind of average the two. So you might get a price in the middle. Pull this down here. So you average down your price. Your stop is still close by, and now you've got 6-1. Reasonable way to approach it, because if you didn't want to miss it and you saw a reaction there, that's a place to take a partial, knowing you might be adding below. Right? Okay, guys, I'll wrap it there.